reached the hour of 6:30. We'll begin our meeting. Good evening and welcome to the Town Hall. I'd like to inform you that we record all our meetings for playback on YouTube, and I see we have other media here this evening. Tonight we'll begin with our regular council meeting. After the pledge, I'll recess the meeting, and we have two community facilities districts, CFD meetings, that we'll move to, and then we'll reconvene our regular meeting. Tonight's invocation will be led by Vice Mayor Kara Egbert, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Mayor and Council. Vice Mayor Egbert.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this opportunity to meet as a governing board for the town of Sarita. We pray for our country to have discernment during the next few weeks as we hit the elections. We pray for unity and understanding among our community as things progress. We pray that and ask that will watch and protect our military, our police, and our frontline workers. We also pray for guidance and tonight, all those that will be speaking and for those that will be governing, that we will have understanding and clearly be able to make the decisions best for the town of Sarita. We ask these things humbly in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I hereby suspend our town council meeting and commence with our facilities district, beginning with the Rancho Sarita Community Facilities District. I hereby call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll?
Board Member Bracco.
Here.
Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member Hicks. Here. Board Member Luss.
Here.
Board Member Morales. Here. Vice Chairperson Egbert.
Here.
Chairperson Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Item number 3 is call to the public for the CFD. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the district board on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the district board can lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws, the district board may not discuss the items, but individual members of the district board may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the district board and may ask staff to review the matter or may ask the matter to be placed on a future agenda item. I don't have any speaker cards for the Rancho Sarita Community Facilities District. Would anybody like to address the district board on this item? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to the public and move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. There being no more further business with the Rancho Sarita CFD, we are adjourned. Now I hereby call the meeting of the Quail Creek Facilities District to order. Madam Clerk.
Board Member Bracco.
Still here.
Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member Hicks.
Here.
Board Member Luss.
Here.
Board Member Morales. Here. Vice Chairperson Egbert.
Here.
Chairperson Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. This is the call to the public for the Quail Creek Facilities District. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the district board on any issue which is on tonight's agenda, or any issue which the district board can lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to the Arizona open meeting laws, the district board may not discuss the items, but individual members of the district board may respond to criticism made by those who address the district board, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask the matter to be placed on a future agenda item. I don't have any speaker cards for this agenda item. Is anybody like to address the district board for Quail Creek Facilities District? Seeing no movement.
Wait. I'm not sure what that is. I'm here to ask and find out about the Robson
Yeah,
annexation.
that'll be on our regular agenda.
Okay.
Upcoming, but that's okay to ask. Yeah, we don't want to fly by it and you not have an opportunity. Seeing no other movement, I will declare the call to public on that item closed and move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Consent agenda approved. Having no more further business on this item, we will return to our regular council meeting. And Madam Clerk, may I have a roll?
Councilmember Brecka.
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Hicks.
Here.
Councilmember Lutz.
Here.
Councilmember Morales.
Here.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. We also have two presentations. The first is declaring October 18th through the 24th of 2020 as Arizona Cities and Towns Week, and urge our citizens, our community leaders, local businesses, municipal staff to work together to ensure that services provided by Salarita remain exceptional elements of the quality of life of our community. Our second presentation is with Mr. Mariotti. If Mr. Mariotti would join us at the podium. Well, not join. I usually come down there, but I'm going to stay up here tonight. A.C. Mariotti is our finance director and leader of the finance and IT departments. For the 17th straight year, which coincidentally is my age, so that's a nice thing, the Government Finance Officers Association has bestowed upon the town the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for our CAFR, and you might want to explain what the CAFR is when you get a chance, which is an easy to read and efficient, organized, comprehensive, and annual financial report. And I also know our comms team does a lot of work working with you to get that out. So congratulations to you and your team on implementing a budget with their priorities that are reflective of the council and our staff. And thanks for the great work. And please, this is a plaque that usually I'm down there to present to him, but he'll be taking it away of what was presented. So AC, if you'd like to say a couple words.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the CAFR is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and it's actually an annual report that gets audited each year, and actually we're undergoing our audit as we speak. So the auditors, although they are doing it virtually this year, which is a change for us, but so it's a report that looks at the past. So the budget is a forward-looking document. The CAFR is the actual results of the previous fiscal year. So the auditors come out and just make sure that we're complying with all the laws and regulations that a government has to follow. And so if you look at the auditor reports, you'll find that indeed we do comply with all the laws from a material standpoint, all the laws that we're required to follow. But it also identifies that we produce our financial reports and that they're accurate. And so that's very important to the community, hopefully. So sometimes you'll hear things out there.
Yeah.
You know.
There's no secret slush fund that we have in the back room or anything, right?
So the auditors look for things like slush funds, and those things would come out in their audit reports. But we did get a clean bill of health, so financially we're looking good, and our audit reports reflect that we're doing a good job as a town and as a community. So, of course, it's a team effort. It's not just the finance department. It's also the town council setting policies and procedures in place that we follow. It's our leadership, Kelly, and the town manager's office, and as you mentioned, also communications helps us keep it together in the document. So, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
We're great for the hard work. Please congratulate all of the team members for everything that we do and keeping us solvent and ahead of the game. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item number 6 is approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? We have our agenda for this evening. Item number 6 is call to the public. At this time, any member of the public is invited to address the town council on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the town council may lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws, the council may not discuss the items, but individual members of the council may respond to criticism made by those who address the council, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask the matter to be placed on the future agenda. And I have one call for the public card for this particular item. Yours will be later. At this time, Mr. Alan Jennings.
Since June 19th, Mayor Tom Murphy has been opposing Pima County's authority to issue health regulations, which is granted by Arizona Revised Statute 36-132.02, which gives counties the requirement that they regulate the spread of infectious disease. Basically, the mayor has said that he will not abide by a Arizona revised statute. He has been abusing his position to spread disinformation. The statute he claims allows him to disregard the county's regulations. It requires the matter to be addressed with evidence in town council. The mayor has hypocritically failed to follow through with this. I request that the town council review the legality, the town council assign staff to review the legality of the mayor's actions and direct appropriate corrective and punitive action.
Thank you. I have no more call to the public cards for call to the public. Would anybody like to address the council? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to the public and move to council.
Can I say something? Am I allowed to? I just want to know what we need to do to validate him. I don't feel that we've validated him. How can we get him on the agenda so that he can be validated at a meeting?
Mr. Mayor, you can't discuss this. Is that on?
No.
No? It was earlier. Mr. Mayor.
You can talk loud.
We can hear you.
You're unable to even answer that question. You cannot discuss this item at all. Council members can talk to you personally, but at this meeting you cannot discuss it.
Okay. Thank you. Kelly, do you want to say anything? Oh, I saw you reach for the microphone. Brief summary reports. That's why you're reaching for the microphone. Mr. Udall.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I had just a few items. Mayor, I'm not going to steal your thunder on the trunk or treat.
Okay, thank
but
you.
I do want to give a few statistics that you may not have.
I don't.
Okay. So we'll tag team this one. We had our drive-through trunk or treat on October 24th. It was attended by 642 vehicles and approximately 37 to 4,000 occupants in those vehicles. As you know, with the way the COVID situation, the way it is now, rather than have the event that we normally do that draws probably 10,000 people to our spooktacular, we changed it up a little bit and we had a drive-through, and that's why we're counting the number of vehicles. Approximately 3,000 bags of candy were handed out, and 600 pumpkins were handed out. We had heavy traffic. In fact, the entire experience from getting in line to ending up with your bag of candy at the very end took approximately 42 minutes. And so I think we didn't anticipate the interest in the event. And so there was a lot of people coming to this event. I wanted to give some thanks to our sponsors, if you don't mind, folks that helped us out as partners in this. Rancho Sahuarita HOA, Rural Metro Fire District, Sahuarita Dance Theater, Stacks, Common Ground Church, Sahuarita Police Department, and the Sahuarita Parks and Recreation Department. Wonderful event, and I know the mayor will have some more to say about that a little bit later on. The other thing that I wanted to advise and invite the public to would be on November 7th, we have our Chalk Art Adventure. And this will be a combination of virtual and live chalk art experience. So what they're doing is they'll have professional muralists come out at all 5 of our town parks. The public is welcome to watch them draw their art on our sidewalks there from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can also go online and download, once they're done, the artist's designs in coloring book form. So your kids can have an opportunity, if they can't go to and watch them, to download that and color it for themselves. This is co-sponsored by the Southern Arizona Arts and Cultural Alliance. And the last thing I have, and there's been a lot of questions about this, is when is the hospital actually going to be opening their doors? And the answer is we don't know yet. They told us it will be in the first 2 weeks of November, but they haven't told us of a specific date. But they're ready to go. They have all the permits for the bottom floor. They're still working on permits on the top floor. But they'll be able to open, and as soon as we get that exact date, we'll make sure to let the public know.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to throw any minutes? No? Good? No? Yeah. No, thanks, Kelly. I was just going to tag team. Probably out of that 642 pumpkins, I probably gave out 300 of those, and then I went to the candy, the lighter candy side. It was a great event, as you said, and I know all of the Park and Rec department did a lot of work on it. Melissa, with the events coordinator, did a lot of work. Common Ground, and Jamie Carr from Common Ground is one of really the quarterback of this for many years when it started over in the Fry's Marketplace, and then moved to the school, and then moved over here. So it was, I know and thanks to the police department, we had a lot of traffic. And I know a lot of folks, I heard, were actually coming from out of town. So I think it just showed, sort of the pent-up need and demand to engage and do some things together, especially as a family. So a lot of the displays were more interactive because of the separation in space and driving through. So all of you would have been, very proud. It was really a unique event and wonderful event. And then as a reminder, our next meeting is Monday, November 9th, 2020. And next on the agenda is item number 9, which is the consent agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Consent agenda approved. Now we come to item number 10. Madam Clerk.
DM50 presentation and Davis-Monson Air Force Base community update.
Thank you. Well, I know we have a few members here, but we have Jay Bickley, DM50 Public Policy Committee Head, will brief us on DM50, as well as Mike Torriello, the 355th Wing Director, Community Partnership, if you want to come up. And I know there's some more here, Linda and others, if you want to join them, or you can introduce them.
I think they're just going to send me to the wolves.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. And I've missed, with COVID, the DM Tucson Valley Council meeting. I always have the privilege of going to the quarterly breakfast and hearing what's going on at DM50. And it's very personal to me. My wife retired out of DM, and my daughter's stationed there now and is deployed. So I'd love to hear personally what's going on at DM50, and other than our retired Army guy to my left. Great overview.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to come out tonight and talk about, me specifically talking about the DM50 and how we support the base. Not only, and I'll talk more about it, but I want to get it out front that we're not only in support of making sure that the mission continues at Davis-Monson Air Force Base, which I'll show you is very economically good for all of our communities. We spend a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of donations on taking care of our airmen at the base. And we have a lot of crossover also because it's not just an Air Force state. There's a lot of different, as you all know, all the services are really involved here. You always got to start out with the good news, and here's Davis-Monson. It's not only a gem for here in Tucson, but it's also highly recognized within the Air Force, and then also in Air Combat Command. You can see most recently in 2018, they were the installation of the year for the entire Air Force. This is just to kind of give you a perspective. You probably all know where Davis-Monson is, but if you look kind of back at the history of it, you can see where AIM Mountain is there, and then the Heritage Hangar that's been there. This was in 1925, so it was built sometime prior to that, and still stands today. It's actually, as I believe it's what Alvernon turns into golf links right there on that corner. This hangar still stands there today. And then I'll just give you a perspective of what the base looks like today and all the different missions. I'll go into, there won't be a quiz afterwards, thank goodness, but I'll show you all the different missions and squadrons that are involved there at DM. But you can see the AMARG over there on the right-hand side, or what we call the boneyard, and then the wing, the A-10 wing, And then as you come closer down to the bottom of the slide is where the EC-130s and rescue missions and also the alert F-16s that sit on the base as well. And here's all the missions. You can see it's not only military missions, there's also the customs mission that operates out of the north side or kind of the northwest side of the base. Air National Guard, reserves, active duty. And as we talk about why Tucson's important and why it's a good idea to have this particular mission here, just take into account all the different types of missions that there are. There's the attack mission, the rescue mission, the electronic jamming mission by the EC-130s, and then we'll talk about the ranges and what makes Tucson so special. The Barry Goldwater Range is truly a national treasure. I mean, you look across the country and the different ranges that are available for not only live fire, but for high altitude, low altitude training. There just aren't that many left in the United States. And the Tombstone Low also is used a lot by the A-10s. But the Goldwater Range is where you can bring all these missions together in a synergistic fashion. And so that's why why Tucson, and that's why it's such a gem, and that's why Air Combat Command is so fond of Davis-Monson and continuing to have a mission here. Here's the strengths, and we all know about the weather. It's always beautiful here, and it's always for flying purposes. Talked about the range, the Barry Goldwater Range. It's only about 15 minutes flying time out to the range, or out to the Tombstone Range. So when you've only got an hour and a half to fly, only taking 15 minutes to get to your training airspace is very, very valuable. And then I talked about the synergy of the missions with the rescue, electronic missions, and also the fighters. Personnel in the community. This is where we start talking about more about why we advocate for this. You can see it's not only the military member, but also the dependents and the civilians who live and work in the communities and contribute to the communities, and also attend schools in all of our communities in this area. Economic impact. So you might be asking yourself, well, military members are generally in an area or in a community for a short period of time, maybe a 3 or 4 year assignment. But the reality is these numbers are constant of what they bring to our economies and to the surrounding cities. The economic impact of Davis-Monson itself, and also the contract and the purchases from the local community, $428 million. Number 4 in the state. And don't ask me when that was, or that data point, what the time frame on that one. And as an organization, the DM50, this is our charge, or this is our mission. As I said up front, we do advocate, obviously, to make sure that a mission stays at Davis-Monson. We think it's extremely important for the reasons that we've just talked about. But we also want to educate the community on what our airmen do, and what our military members do, and what they sacrifice. So we spend a lot of time on the base and a lot of time working with the wing to ensure that they have the things that they need. It's kind of an overview. We're a nonprofit organization with about 120, don't let it 50. It started out as 50 members, and that's why DM50. But we're up to about 120 members now. Nearly $2 million in direct and indirect support to the base. And I will tell you firsthand, as a retired Air Force colonel, I will tell you that the DM50 is recognized at the senior Air Force levels as being one of the gems of across the Air Force supporting organizations. And not just because a lot of organizations across the country will advocate very strongly for a mission, but they don't put it back into the base. I think the DM50 does a great job of doing that. Programs and events, and here's some examples of how we support the airmen. DM, of course, with a lot of these things, because of COVID, we're not going to get to do this year, but in a normal year, we would have a tailgate party out at the U of A. It's widely attended. We bring a lot of the airmen out from the base. We feed them lunch and then give them tickets to the game so they can go sit and watch a home game. The DM50 picnic, this is on base, and this is for the airmen, put on by the DM50. And then we have a car show that goes along with that. The golf tournament, this is kind of an event where you think, well, is this just a fundraising event? And it's not really. It's bringing airmen out to golf with the DM50 members who are generally community leaders so that we have that crosstalk and that cross-relationship building. Kachina Airmen's Fund, the child care safety seat programs. We raised money to ensure that all of our military members on base have appropriate, up-to-date child seats, that they're not expired. And then Loft Dinners is over where the airmen live, and we go over there and we feed them dinner periodically. Again, building that relationship in community and welcoming them into our community. Advocacy, here is kind of across the board, local, state, federal advocacy. We are members of SATA. Tim Stilba and I sit on that committee as well, which is more far-reaching than just the Air Force, Southern Arizona Defense Alliance. Their Military Community Relations Committee, we attend those downtown. Base realignment, there hasn't been any talk of BRAC, but if there were and when there was, we spent time getting involved with base realignments. And in the environmental impact assessments, just recently we had the F-35 environmental impact survey. Mayor was nice enough to come out and attend, and with the results of that came out, the Davis-Monson was never a primary base for the F-35 on the reserve side of the house. So Fort Worth is the recommended base for that, but Davis-Monson was not found to not be worthy of the F-35, which is good news for all of us for future F-35 missions. There's our website if you want to get more information, and then also our social media piece of it, Facebook. We would love you to follow, because we keep that up to date and all of our activities and all the things that we're doing. And you know, like everyone, we hope that our communities can kind of get back to some semblance of normal, and we can continue to support the base with activities and all of our surrounding areas. And I don't know, do we do questions?
Yeah, we can do questions, yeah. Tim, do you have a question about that?
Yeah, actually, not to put you on the spot, but obviously the town has a big vested interest in the success of the base, and obviously its employees. And a couple of months ago I was involved in a function that brought up the Military Affairs Commission, the State Military Affairs Commission. Are you aware of that?
At the state level, with the governor, they have...
The governor has a commission
Yeah.
that's actually in statute to be operating every year, and that's to look out for the interests of the bases in the state, their well-being, obviously in case of any closures down the road. But the commission hasn't met in at least 3 years. And so, from my standpoint, it's seeing if we can get the council to support pushing the government to get that commission going again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good idea as well. We're not, I suppose, through our SATA work, we would probably get involved with that, but I haven't specifically. If they haven't met in 3 years, then they're probably time.
Yeah, there was an initiative from the Arizona League of Cities and Towns that we usually vote on and push, and that was one of the ones that they were looking at doing it. So it might be something to look at, because Simon said it's very important to, you know, keep that advocacy out there. So if anything we can do to help on that.
Oh, absolutely. And Tim, you got anything additional on that, or maybe Mike has?
So, I'm Mike Quail, I'm the Director of Community Partnership for the Wayne. So we have a contact at the state with the governor's office, and we work on all those programs directly with them.
Any other questions?
All right, thanks for being here tonight.
No, thank you very much for giving us the time. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
everything
it.
you do.
Thank you.
Now we come to item number 11. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. I haven't moved on.
So good evening, I'm Mike Trail, I'm the Director of Community Partnership at Davis-Monson. On behalf of Colonel Joseph Turnham, thank you for allowing me to give you a quick overview. First of all, this is our mission, rescue and attack, and this is our new wing commander's, his priorities: be ready for the fight, resiliency for our airmen, and foster relationships. This is a map of the base, and basically 613 facilities, $4 billion worth of plant replacement value. And that's to the north. A-Mark is the storage area, flight line, and our munitions storage area. Some more statistics. Big takeaway here, $51 billion worth of assets and 6,500 combat qualified airmen that we send out to fight our wars. DM's a complex installation. Not only do we have all of these installations, Jay talked about a few of them, 12th Air Force, numbered Air Forces, 7 wings, But we also have Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol. They have a very big presence at DM, and they're continuing to grow. One of the programs I run is the Community Partnership Program. We have a big program with Pima County, University of Arizona, City of Tucson, Veterans Administration, and they go across all of these areas, public works, medical, language. The big takeaway is, so far in the past 4 years, $2.6 billion worth of savings. They help train our airmen in all kinds of areas. Ongoing program. We usually have 2 meetings a year, but we're on hold now because of COVID. But we're hopefully going to have a meeting in January of 21, either virtual or maybe with social distancing. So now I want to talk a little bit about facilities and where DM's going in the future. So DM, like I said earlier, is 10,600 acres. So this kind of eye test chart of all of these different colors shows that we have millions of dollars worth of construction programmed for DM over the next 20 years. Most of it will be to support the rescue program for the HH-60 helicopters and the C-130 aircraft, but also replacing old facilities. So depending on the availability of funds for the military, DM will be around for a long time with a lot of new facilities coming in the future. And just a quick overview, I wanted to tell you about a few facilities on DM. There's an aerospace ground equipment facility. It's worth $15 million. It's under construction. It'll be done next summer. It'll help replace 5 old buildings and 32,000 square feet. We're really looking forward. It will support the aircraft maintenance function. Another MILCOM project, and this one's kind of different. It's our partnership with the Army, and Fort Huachuca is building this facility worth $20 million. It looks like this. It's nearing completion. It'll be done in the summer of 21. It will be training Army soldiers on DM and intelligence programs. And finally, a big project we're looking for in 22. This is a MILCOM project. I can tell you it's between $10 and $20 million. It replaces our large vehicle inspection station, which is located at the Swan Gate, and now it'll be at the South Belmont Gate, and it'll go down into Valencia. So we're really looking forward to this. It'll alleviate all the traffic on the north side of the base. We're looking for congressional support for this, and hopefully we will get it in the 2022 program. And that's what I have for you this evening. Can I answer any questions?
Well, I know that Wilmot Improvement Gate will be good for our community because we have a lot of airmen who live down here, as Simon said, as well as Border Patrol. So getting that gate onto Valencia down here will be, I think, a real benefit for us as well.
Pima County just finished improving the road from the gate all the way to Valencia.
Right.
It's a big initiative by Pima County.
Thanks.
I'm glad to see you raising the property values by bringing the Army on.
But you hear what he said, it was to teach the intelligence, so.
Well, yeah, DM's a complex base, and we're looking for all kind of other partners to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. And the big thing coming on the horizon, I can tell you, the air show is on the calendar for April of 21, and it's going to be the 3rd week, and more information will be coming out on that probably January, February.
And I just attended the groundbreaking for the new runway at Tucson International Airport, and I know that was going to be a benefit overall for the area with the Guard and 162nd, and so everybody was very excited about that as well.
Yeah. And Mr. Mayor, also the Davis-Monson Tucson Valley Council, which we haven't had for quite a while because of COVID, and we talked to Colonel Turnham, and hopefully we will get that started back in January, either virtual, but we're hoping to do it with social distancing, so we can bring a lot of the new elected officials and members of the community in.
Great. Thanks for doing that.
You're
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Next is item number 11, Madam Clerk.
Public hearing and discussion regarding the proposed annexation of a 10-acre parcel from Robeson Ranch, Quail Creek, LLC.
Thanks. And Sarah Moore, our Planning and Building Director, will be presenting this item. And after she presents, and if there's any questions, this will come with a public hearing. So proceed, Ms. Moore.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just need to turn that on. This is, as advertised, annexation of a property owned by Robeson Communities. There is a whole legal procedure, and I want to thank the town attorney's office, legal department, for making sure that all of these procedures and dates and were in compliance with state law. And basically, we have to look at these criteria, you know, for it must adjoin, it has to be at least 200 feet wide, distance doesn't create a county island, and no pending annexations within 6 miles. And this proposed annexation meets all those criteria. These are some of the steps, you know, that you have to go and ask the state and county assessor for specific owner information, appraisal, and assessment, so you're getting at both value and owners, and must be recorded, the blank petition and the map. And that was all done, and within 30 days of that recording, which is October 30th, we hold this public hearing. All the notice has been per code and state statutes, notice to the Board of Supervisors, notice of public hearing in our local newspaper, posted on the property, and our staff was really good. They went out and posted along the edge of the property so the folks who lived in Green Valley next door could see it and know about it. And then, of course, we have a waiting period that we were in compliance with. There's only one owner of this property, so that property owner has signed, Robeson Communities. The Annexation Ordinance, once again, if it's approved tonight, will be recorded tomorrow, and then it's final within 30 days. This is kind of hard to see, but it's a long, skinny parcel that's only 10 acres in total, but it is owned by Robeson, and a while back, years back, they had filed to have that be part of an annexation, but when they provided the legal description for the actual technical annexation, it wasn't included. So this just makes their property whole. There is no specific development proposal attached to this annexation, and we'll get to what's coming next. This is going to be included in the general plan amendment that's coming up, that just says that this whole area, which is hundreds of acres, is appropriate for master planning. And I'm sorry. So that concludes my presentation. And once again, I spoke with the woman who wanted to speak, so when you opened the public hearing, she said that I clarified what was going on. And this is just one of the first little minor steps to set the stage for the general plan amendment and subsequent specific plan amendment. So we've got a lot of more public hearings to go. That concludes my remarks.
Before I open the public hearing, does anybody have any questions for Sarah?
Mr. Mayor, out here? Nope. Ocular.
Oh, okay. It's like we're done with
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could supplement something just to clarify the record for the public hearing. We have not gathered any signatures. We're not able to gather signatures until after this public hearing and after a 30-day waiting period, so we've not gathered any signatures. The property owner has indicated that they want to sign and will sign. This will be on your next agenda then for you to take the action to, we then, after it's signed, we record that signed petition, and then we will bring you an ordinance at your next meeting to consider the final annexation. Tonight is simply an informational meeting and public hearing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate that. They signed an application form for this annexation, but this is one of the easier ones where you don't have a whole lot of property.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions before I open the public hearing? At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. As Ms. Moore said, I saw the person that wanted to speak leave, so outside of her, I don't have any cards. If anybody would like to address the council on this matter, yeah, you can, just,
I filled out a form too.
oh, Roberta Reed?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you want to come up, Roberta Reed, I thought that was the person that had left. My apologies.
No problem. So I don't know if this is appropriate right now or if it should come later.
Well, let's see.
Give it.
You have 3 minutes to say whatever you'd like.
Okay. So, I just live on the edge, of this land. Where am I? Right there. That's me.
Okay.
So, right out my back door is that strip, and I walk my dog along there, for the past few years. I've only lived in Green Valley at, Country Club North for a few years. But, the first thing we did was fix up our landscaping for $15,000 worth, and, but this is in our, backyard, and I just have a lot of pictures that I took today, that property is a sewer pipe under there, and then it's, an old fence that used to keep the cattle in, but then the cattle kept getting out, so they built another fence inside there. And in between the old fence and the new fence, there's just a lot of overgrown vegetation and mess that needs to kind of be cleaned up. And so I just wanted to put that bug in everybody's ear. And I can leave these pictures if you want.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for the input. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the council in the public hearing? Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm sorry, I did not fill out a...
No, if you would just afterwards, that's fine, just for the record.
I thought my questions would be answered, and quite frankly, they've not been. So I'm not sure, I'm the president of the HOA that this affects right next door. My name is Bob McDonald. I don't know why that narrow little strip would even be interested to you. You certainly could put a house on it, so can I understand why you're interested in that property?
Well, actually, it's, I'll have Ms. Moore speak, but usually it's the applicant, which would be the landowner, wanted to have it included in our town boundaries. So they're the applicant that actually
It's not
submits.
Sarita searching for this property, it's the landowner wanting annexation to
Correct.
Sarita.
And as Ms. Moore said, early on, it was probably a technical oversight that when they did annex the property they did into the town, they left, you have to have all your the boundaries, the legal description of it, and it was left off, and so that's why it looks probably a little odd, because it was left off of the legal description when they originally had annexed into the town. And you can correct me if I said anything wrong this month.
I just want to mention that property all the way over to Nogales Highway is all in Robeson ownership right now. So it really is just adding a little piece to that overall property that is in the town already.
But there will be future efforts through the future general plan amendment and specific plan amendment to probably have further discussions of development of the other lands that are outside of this parcel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that answered it for me. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions at this time? No. I'll declare the public hearing closed. And do I have a motion? Oh, actually, this is just for presentation at this time, right? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item number 12, Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible adoption of ordinance number 2020-0152, adopting new chapter 9.20 recreational marijuana of Title IX, Peace, Morals, and Welfare of the Sahuarita Town Code relating to the regulation of recreational marijuana, establishing a purpose, setting forth definitions, prohibiting marijuana on public property, and repealing all resolutions, ordinances, and rules of the Town of Sahuarita affecting conflict thereof.
And Ms. Bankhead is our Assistant Town Manager and will be presenting on this item this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. The Smart and Safe Arizona Agro Proposition 207 is on the November 3rd ballot. providing Arizona voters the opportunity to legalize recreational use of marijuana and allowing possession of up to an ounce of marijuana for adults 21 years of age or older. Language in the ballot measure does grant local control, to cities and towns so they can determine their own regulation or prohibition. The League of Arizona Cities and Towns, of which the town of Sarita is a member of, there are 91 cities that they represent across the state. The League of Arizona Cities and Towns have drafted a number of model ordinances for cities and towns to consider, if you so choose, in order to preempt Proposition 207 if it should pass. These include, I've got 4 here, including a 5th one, but the 4 ordinances that the League have drafted, include option A, prohibit a marijuana establishment in marijuana testing facility. Option B, prohibit a marijuana establishment with the exception of dual licenses, which operates both a medical dispensary and a marijuana establishment in a shared location, and prohibit a marijuana testing facility. Option C, prohibits a marijuana establishment but allows the testing facility. Option D, permits a marijuana establishment and provides an option for either prohibiting or permitting a testing facility. And, of course, council may elect to not take any action at all tonight, thereby allowing these establishments to come into the town or a testing facility if the law were to pass. The council, the staff is recommending to council option B tonight. And option B would prohibit the establishments but allow for the dual licensee while also prohibiting the marijuana testing facility. And the city of Gilbert recently passed a similar ordinance using the model ordinance from the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. If the law passes, the licensing would be managed by the Arizona Department of Health Services, and there are a limited number of licenses. Currently, I believe there are 130 medical dispensaries, and the medical dispensaries would be given the first preference for these recreational marijuana facilities. The state is also, or the proposition would also look to provide, I think it's 26 additional social equity licenses for those neighborhoods that might be disproportionate law enforcement based on previous marijuana laws. For your consideration tonight is Ordinance 2020-0152, which is based on the model ordinance prepared by the League that would prohibit the recreational marijuana establishments and the testing from operating within the town, with the exception of a dual license. Sarita currently has 1 medical dispensary. It is out on West Duval Mine Road, west of La Piñata. Adoption of Ordinance 2020-0152 would establish a new chapter, 9.20 recreational marijuana of Title IX of the Sarita Town Code. Except as allowed by law for personal private use, it would prohibit the retail sale, cultivation, and manufacturing of marijuana in the town of Sarita, prohibit testing facilities in the town, and prohibit use on public property or in a public or open space within the town. The ordinance would permit to the fullest extent of the law a dual licensee operator of both a nonprofit medical marijuana dispensary and a marijuana establishment cooperatively in the shared location, as I mentioned. If adopted tonight, Ordinance 2020-152 would not become effective unless the Smart and Safe Arizona Act or Proposition 207 becomes law, if approved by a majority of the votes cast at the November 3rd election, and thereby followed 30 days by a proclamation of the governor. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Terry? There's one call to the public that I wanted to see if anybody had any questions of her. What's that? Okay. Any questions before I? Okay, but stand by, Terry, and there might be some questions. Mr. Jennings?
Alan Jennings, Sarita resident. So the ordinance claims it's seeking to protect the health, safety, and welfare. However, calling testing facilities a threat is unjustified according to the material presented in the ordinance. Testing in marijuana looks for unsafe levels of microbial contamination, heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, growth regulations, and residual solvents. These labs must be certified by the Department of Health and Safety and accredited by an accepted international association. They must be independent from and not have financial ties to dispensaries. Banning these testing labs would be equivalent to banning LabCorp or Quest Diagnostics or other clinical laboratory services. Testing steps involve microscopic inspection, moisture content being dissolved in an alcohol solution with solid materials separated via centrifuge, high-performance liquid chromatography is used to determine the concentration of chemicals, a gas chromatography mass spectrometer is used to identify the presence of pesticides, herbicides, and heavy metals. Mold, mildew, and bacteria infection are tested via the 48-hour growth on a petri dish. None of these are dangerous and performed by qualified technicians. These testing facilities are safe and would only require the support of law enforcement as any other business or testing or manufacturing center that would come into the city. I'm requesting that the language regarding the testing facilities be struck from the ordinance. The ordinance does not provide any justification for its inclusions when compared to any other business not prohibited by the town, and this can be done without any impact on the other substance of the resolution. Or at the very least, something should be added to justify passing a smell test that these facilities should be prohibited.
Thank you. Staff, do you want to address what was the thinking behind prohibiting the labs themselves?
Well, the testing, my understanding is basically overseen by the Arizona Department of Health Services anyway, and if we're going to restrict it to a dual medical dispensary, I believe the testing facilities would have to be in a separate location.
Right.
I don't quite know for sure, but we could verify that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for staff?
No questions, I just got some comments when I'm ready.
Okay. Any questions? Well, go ahead with your comments.
I've got a problem with this in general. I'm personally, and this is not Councilman, this is me personally, I don't like this proposition to begin with. I think it's dangerous. However, if it does pass, I don't like to see additional regulation being put on a business that was legally and lawfully started. This is going to create a monopoly for the only dual license facility in our town. There is no way that is going to regulate the amount of marijuana going through that facility. The market will only be able to do that. So we potentially create a Walmart of ganja from somebody who happened to have a dual license that was in here before we got a hold of this. It doesn't slow down the usage. I believe that if this is going to pass, we should allow free enterprise to dictate. If the market's going to ban multiple facilities, then let there be multiple facilities, so we don't have one facility with a line out the door for these people coming in and getting their product. So I just think this is a back way of regulating something that apparently the people, if passed, don't want regulated.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I agree with some of what Bill was saying, but what's to prohibit another medical marijuana or another dual provider from coming? Because I know we have zoning rules for the medical marijuana providers already, which is that's a different ordinance. Is that correct? So we would have to do that anyway.
For second medicinal marijuana.
Right. If we were to allow, these other businesses to come in, is that correct, Dan?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Hicks, we have in the zoning code, we have regulations regarding the location of medical marijuana dispensaries. I don't know if the manager intends to bring you zoning code amendments that would apply to these facilities as well, but I expect that it's probably likely. But that's not part of this.
But they would still have, to clarify, they would still have the opportunity to open another medical marijuana, which would then still allow them a dual license if they wanted to sell recreational marijuana. I think that's what...
Mr. Mayor, good question, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The health department, state health department, issues the licenses, and they're in regions, and we are in a region. So if they issue another medical dispensary license that falls within our region, and the licensee decides to put that medical marijuana dispensary in the town, then the proposed ordinance would allow that second medical marijuana dispensary to also have a retail license.
Right. That my comfort level would be probably more with that than total abandon, I guess, from anybody just specifically wanting to only open up a recreational marijuana. I guess my comfort level would be what's already in place if somebody did want to come in to apply for a medical marijuana and then go for the dual license.
Mr. Mayor, if I could follow up a question then.
Sure.
So, in order for them, and I know we talked about this, I don't even remember how many years ago, when we were working on the different, my concern is, not that we would have a plethora of them, but that then there's so many other zoning issues, you know, being close to schools. How many I mean, are we gonna have 6 in a strip mall? You know, what type, and those would have to be enacted then either before or shortly thereafter. Whereas if, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, if we require them to have the dual license, then that's already taken. Then it would all fall under the same umbrella and the same zoning laws that we've already enacted. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Hicks, yes, if they're co-locating the dispensary and the store, then because of the regulations on the dispensary, then yes, they're already obligated to that.
And well, I'm assuming that, based on your earlier comments, that you wouldn't have a problem allowing labs, certainly. Yeah.
So I think with my understanding...
The microphone there?
That work?
Yep.
I think with my understanding, the medical part of it, there's only so many allowed within so many miles of each other, right? So that's why we only have one, because it's already allocated the miles within Sahuarita. So does that go with the retail part of it too? If we're only gonna do one, then we'll only be able to have one retail store? Is that basically how it is, or?
Well, the retail can only, if it is the dual license, it can only be in a shared location with the medical dispensary.
So we'd only be allowed one then?
Right.
With the one that we have?
Right. But does anything, based to her question, based on miles and things, right now, there isn't anything that would prevent a second medicinal marijuana location, if they get the license and all of that, to be located in the town, is there?
I think so. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, that the state regulates that, so I have to admit I've not spent a lot of time researching that, but my understanding is that the state allocates them in regions, and I'm not aware of any state regulation that limits the number per municipality.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, the concern here is, again, we're kind of putting our thumb on the scale here. What if, let me just put it this way. We have a lot of people, we have a group of people that have medical cards and they're going to have the medical. It goes recreational. They probably won't need the medical cards and won't need to renew them. So now we've just dropped that market while the recreational market increases. And yet we're tying the entire market to the medical side, which I believe will reduce itself when recreational marijuana becomes legal.
But do you have a concern that if that happens, then the recreational use, though?
I have a concern about the whole recreational, but I don't have a say in that. This proposal does. But what I do have a say in is that we let the market sort this out and not the government choose winners and losers and creating an artificial monopoly because that makes it easier for us to deal with.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I understand that I'm in support of free enterprise as much as Bill is. However, I don't know how it can be regulated, and that's my concern. If we were to adopt the ordinance as written, well, we can always reduce the restrictions, but if we don't have something like this in place, then we could get into some legal issues by then restricting them again. Is that the case, Dan? Does that make sense? Does my question make sense?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Hicks, your question does make sense. I'm somewhat limited because I don't like to give legal advice to my client, which is the 7 of you in public. But what I will say is, the safer position is to regulate now and relax regulations later than the reverse.
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think our ability and what I understand the issues involved here, the free enterprise, I don't think anybody wants to see a recreational marijuana store in every street corner. And I think the unintended consequences, the proposition that's on the ballot, if it passes, we're going to have to work through a lot of details. Certainly looking at what other states have had to deal with when their ballots have been approved, or their propositions have been approved, California, Colorado, things. There were a lot of unintended consequences based on how the proposition will be written.
Right.
So I'm certainly for limiting it right now, and certainly I think it's within our scope to change the ordinance down the road as we see necessary, and if it's apparent we need to allow more dispensaries.
Right.
But I think, until we know what's going on, we kind of, the state, if this passes next week. I just, from my own personal standpoint, but I think a lot of members of the community just don't want this to probably threaten the whole community.
Right. I would concur with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Simon, just to your point though, you're ignoring market conditions. There won't be one on every corner unless there's a market to support that. And if there's a market to support that, you're going to have lines standing out of the one facility that we have for them to waiting to get in, because the market is going to drive the number. And this is my point, is that we're creating an artificiality in a free market system. So we're going to create a monopoly for one organization, one entity, and regardless of what the volume is, the rest will come from the volume. So if we want to attack this, we attack it from the requirement side, the volume side, and not from the business side.
Or the other alternative is they would go to another community that may have more of that availability, which in my mind wouldn't be so bad.
And I think addressing that issue, if there's a line out the door, somebody else is going to show up in front of our chambers here requesting to open a store.
Right.
And I think that's how we can address it. If we've got people lining up here saying, hey, I want a license to sell recreational marijuana, then it behooves us to figure out a solution.
And it gives us some control at that point.
Yeah. Similar, I know the state controls liquor licenses. I think until we know what's going to happen, until we see, because I know there's some communities that are going to be all for this, and there's some conservative communities that are going to be strictly against it, but let's see how it plays out.
Right.
And not set up something that we, once it's out the bag, we're going to have trouble getting back in the bag.
And what was your feeling on, as it was addressed by Mr. Jennings about the lab itself, testing lab, which probably isn't a lot different than...
Well, again, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, on this, is the state controls the testing. The town is not going to get into the business of testing.
Well, no, but we would be sort of like, to Bill's point on recreational stores, if we pass the ordinance in the form that it's in now, then we wouldn't be allowing a testing lab if they were able to get a license through EDS to come down here and actually open a lab.
Yeah, then I would use the same argument. If there is a need for a testing lab, what's to say we can't change the ordinance?
Right.
If there's something driving it. I'm just, as opposed to opening doors and letting anything go, let's open it a crack and see what's driving it.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Could we, if this passes, can we make sure, and Kelly, maybe this is for you, make sure that we get on the agenda so that we can discuss it more in detail. I mean, depending upon what we decide tonight, but again, like Simon said, there's gonna be a lot of different technicalities that we're gonna have to talk about. And, you know, the zoning and all that, everything, I think, if it passes. But I feel like we're protecting our town and our community right now by being a bit more restrictive.
Well, and one of the technicalities is, are you subverting the will of the people? They're voting for this, and we're trying to hold it back.
And if they vote for it, then we can revisit it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have no problem at all with the options that are on the table. Frankly, it is simply a starting point, and we're all going to learn from this, but we start from a point of minimal. And then if there's more that's out there, if the market is if the demand is there, if we need a laboratory, those are going to come and they can be changed by future councils. But I don't see opening the door at this point based on the fact that we are imposing restrictions on business. The business will come, and there's nothing in this that says we shall never have another testing lab and we shall never have another recreational. I didn't hear that in this piece of
Or discussion,
approach.
or a future discussion on it.
So I certainly have no problem with the discussion and agree with Simon.
Okay. Debbie, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in?
Well, I'm looking at it a different way. If it gets approved, if it passes, and it's gonna be revenue for us, regardless of how many, retail centers we have. You know, I think it should be limited, but like you said, if the voters voted for it, you know, why are we not gonna support it afterwards?
Well, I guess you could make the case, though, the voters, if as a whole, could vote for, I mean, could be in passage of it, but potentially not our residents, not, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, it could be other parts of the state. And I didn't want to leave, you know, forget, Kara, Vice Mayor, did you want to add anything on this? I always forget.
I think it's been a great discussion. I love all of the different thoughts. It's made me think in several different avenues. I think I'm landing with what Simon and Gil have said. I think that it's good to wait, like go ahead, put it in, and wait to see if it passes, and then if we need to make modifications to it, then we do.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2020-0152.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Do you have that, Lisa? Okay.
6 A's, 1.
1 day. Got it. Thank you. And I did forget, so before I adjourn, during the brief summary of current events, I did want to put something out as a report. On March 17th, 2020, I, as the mayor of Sahuarita, issued a proclamation declaring an emergency in the town of Sahuarita to address COVID-19 in order to flatten the curve and spread COVID-19 virus, to keep our hospitals from becoming overwhelmed, and to maximize available funding. On September 28th, 2020, the Sahuarita Town Council adopted Ordinance 2020-5151. This action limits the mayor's emergency powers to 7 days, thereby ending the existing emergency proclamation as of November 4th, 2020. So I just wanted that out there. And having no more further business, we're adjourned. Thanks for attending this evening.